I see you.
Yeah, innovation.
Your strategy up, I like that.
Yeah, good sound is going to be good on this one.
All right, I can slap the table.
You can beat the shit out of the table.
I'm still going to refrain because I seen the red light flicker when you did that.
Oh yeah.
All right, maybe it wasn't you then.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, you did that. Do it again. See?
Yeah, because it's like basically because it was too high for the, I don't know, whatever the audio recording sprites for whatever. Hello and welcome to the last edition of Rob and Ray React for a little while now. I'm not going to be back in California for about 6 months, but this has been a great format for the channel. I want to thank you, Ray. I think it was that second video we did was really like sort of a step forward for the channel. The one that we did with Trump on Syria, and
it was a catalyst maybe for some of your recent success.
I'm hoping. I think so, and it was very cool.
I definitely want to congratulate Rob on the traction he's gained over the last several months. We nailed about 6,000 views in one day, and then now all of a sudden he's getting 40 to 50,000 views on a video. It's very impressive, man, and congratulations.
I'm psyched. It's a good thing.
As you should be. Too bad they start cutting back on their advertising. Huh?
Yeah. It's a shame. I think I've whined about that enough on a bunch of other videos. But so today, I think we're gonna. I've been pretty focused over the past couple months on foreign policy, and today we're gonna take it back to domestic policy, which I know Ray has a lot to say about.
Near to my heart.
Yes. For me, it's actually been kind of frustrating looking at domestic policy because I think there's been like a shift really from sort of all presidents. Like it used to be you could look at a president, whether it was Obama or Bush or any of the ones before it, and you could it was a question, it was something you had to analyze. It was something you had to like think about on like a number of different levels. Like, so if you supported someone and they did something you didn't like, it was like, oh, well, maybe it's like 12th dimensional chess and they're like doing some strategy or something. Or if something else happened, you'd be like, oh, well, okay, was this the president himself, or was this like, Dick Cheney or Hillary Clinton's influence or something like that? Like with what we've got going on, there's none of that because it's all very, very straightforward. We've got this one guy who's just essentially an old guy yelling at the television, and then we've got an administration around him that is sort of desperately trying to salvage its self-respect and play damage control. I mean, that's what we've got. Like, in administrations past, there were tensions, there were problems. This administration is a reality television show, and what I see in foreign policy and what I also see in domestic policy that I think keeps me from going too deep into it is just like a complete lack of leadership, and it's depressing, frankly. And like when I'm dealing with foreign policy, like I can sort of look at like the effects and like, okay, how is this changing the pieces? Whereas domestically, it's just a mess.
Yeah, you said a couple things there that I just want to hit on. Leadership is definitely the theme of today. And I think, what is a great leader, right? And our past presidents, I believe, have all had a certain gravitas, and they commanded a room. I believe they also sought counsel and looked for the experts in the fields to educate them to make the best decision for the American people. But also, I think a leader has a vision. They have a plan. And you talked about legislative accomplishments and who was really influencing those legislative blueprints and who is really driving the agenda. Well, in order to drive an agenda or have a legislative accomplishment, you actually have to have a plan. And I've never seen a coherent plan come from this administration.
Well, you're going to make America great again.
Well, and so that's the thing. And you talked about the reality show component. Yeah. Well, when you're selling a TV show, which I have friends in that industry, you have to find those sound bites and those catchy one-liners. And so from his history, he came up with one. And I love how the French Prime Minister just spun it recently and said, let's make the world great again. Right? I mean, there's a million ways to do that. But at the end end of the day, that's nothing but flash and almost like this level of overconfidence that you can just continue to spout this one-liner and think that delivers results and change for the American people.
I think one of the accomplishments that a lot of people point to is in the field of regulatory reform, but it's not reform.
Reform. I was just going to say
everything. Well, it depends. Like, because if you look at it like any regulation is a bad thing and is tying down the country, then maybe you can look at it as a positive thing. But what's important to realize about Trump is that all of his accomplishments are negative. Like
I was just going to go there.
It's like we're gonna take people out of, like, I think, like, on the first day he crushed the TPP, and I think that's fantastic.
Sure.
I did not enjoy that. I was not a fan of leaving the climate accords, not necessarily because I'm an environmentalist, but because it just really hurts American power.
Well, and that's what I think that's a good topic to talk about, the regulatory reform that you said and how it has a negative impact. Gutting environmental policy to me is being ignorant of our greatest challenge of today. And I really do believe that, and your position is correct in that if we're not at the table, we can't even affect what happens on a global level.
That's bad for people who want to restrain that.
Sure, if you want to cut that and bring it back, you're not even there at the table to do so.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think there's consensus across the globe, across all academic institutions. I mean, the people that have spent their lives dedicated to this, that we are having an impact one way or the other. I mean, finite fossil fuels, they're finite. They don't. It's not a sustainable path for humankind. So, and to say that over the last 100 years, with the invention of combustible engines and the emissions that go into our atmosphere, that we can somehow say we know for certain what we're doing to our Earth is ridiculous. We just, unfortunately, this has never happened in the billions of years that this planet has existed. So. To just walk away from the table and to essentially relinquish your role as the leader of the free world. We have to lead on these issues. We cannot just take a back seat.
I'm not completely with you on sort of the environmental aspects, but I think we can both agree. It's like the fact that we just said, screw it, we're out, like,
sure,
was a mistake. And I think I think there is a case to be made that we're overregulated in the States. There are certain aspects that don't work. I have friends in business. I have friends who...
well, that's interesting. You don't think man has had an impact on the extreme changes and swings and droughts?
That is absolutely not what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, but what I'm
you believe there's a man-made effect on our environment and climate that we need to address?
That's not something that I have the skills to look into myself, but I've spoken to many engineers and scientists who are friends of mine who have looked into that. I've had long arguments with yourself. I've had long arguments with other friends of mine who looked at these
pro-business, deregulating so that certain industries can continue to frack, for instance, and things like that.
On the issue of climate change, there's no question. But there is a question in my mind, and I'm not talking about when I say that I want regulatory reform, I'm not saying that I doubt that there's a role for, like, pollution controls and this, that, and the other thing. But I think that there has been, and I think I have read good cases that have been made that during the Obama administration and prior to. It's not like Obama, like this idea that Obama did something that was new and different is I think hogwash. But I do think that regulations have to an extent gotten out of control. Now, to change that, you need to put the right people in place. You need to actually think about these things in detail, in like really annoying technical detail.
Yeah.
Because some regulations are absolutely useful and absolutely worth going forward with and strengthening. Some regulations need to be scrapped. Exactly, maybe overreach and need to be scrapped. And what's frustrating,
that's not what we're talking about.
Exactly.
That's not what we're talking about, because there is no policy experts.
Yeah.
He'd rather have people actually take a turn around this table and literally just shower him with praise than give him objective facts based on their experience to make the proper decision for the business of the American people.
And more importantly than that sort of that embarrassing cabinet meeting thing is he's not actually even putting people in place. He's not actually even hiring,
appointing the people to
he's
positions
not filling
to do the job.
These places. And if you want to fight Washington D.C., I know this isn't really your position, but if you want to fight Washington D.C., if you want to get rid of regulations, if you want to drain the swamp, you need to hire people to drain the swamp. You can't just throw up your hands.
Let's be realistic, Rob.
Yeah.
The drain the swamp thing was one of thousands of lies that this man has uttered.
Sure. No question.
Drain the swamp is a ridiculous. I don't even like that metaphor. At the end of the day, the swamp has overrun the city.
Sure.
It has flooded the sewer systems. There's sewage in the streets.
But my point is that if there was any real backing up for what he's saying, like say you're like a Make America Great Again, like drain the swamp Republican sitting somewhere in the country, like you've got to be really disappointed because he hasn't even hired the people who are going to do the firing.
Well, what is the swamp? You got two Goldman Sachs guys in key financial positions. I mean, he is actually bringing the swamp thing to the party. He's not draining any swamp. He's bringing the monsters to the table so they can continue to do their work behind closed doors without having hearings, without having their amendments proposed by the opposition party. The reason why the first healthcare bill took so long is because they went through countless hearings. It had countless amendments offered by Republicans that were accepted. Like, we're talking about negotiating something that affects 1/6 of the economy in secret and then pushing it through before the CBO can even rate it. So at the end of the day, we're talking about business as usual by those people, I believe, the special interests, the lobbyists and big business that have been controlling politicians with their donations to their campaigns. At the end of the day, I feel very inclined to start looking for solutions to these problems at a more basic root level. Solve some of these root problems, which is, like, for instance, of how you fund political campaigns. I mean, if you took out the element of them always having to beg for money from powerful people, and you publicly funded campaigns with certain levels, you would start to get people into the business of politics to do the people's work, to actually look for ways to help the majority of people, because there would be nothing in it from them financially. They wouldn't gain all this power and influence through essentially the relationships they get spending 2/3 of their time campaign finance.
I disagree with that pretty strongly, frankly. I think that campaign finance...
So the money's not an issue for you?
I think that's
not a problem in this process?
There will always be money in politics.
But no, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
It absolutely has to be. No, there will always... I think that the campaign finance problem that we have is the campaign finance reform that's already been enacted, because it's turned our Congress people into fundraising machines. It used to be we knew like who owned each individual congressperson. Like that's the way
no one should own a congressperson. The people that elect them own the congressperson.
I don't believe that's ever possible.
Of course it's possible.
You've got
there was a point when nobody thought slavery would be abolished. It didn't happen. There's a point when a lot of things were never possible.
You've got publicly funded campaigns. You've got this, that, and the other.
I would argue Europe has a much better system of government than we do currently.
But it's all money. It's all still money.
At the end of the day, I'm not saying the change is going to happen overnight, but if you really honestly want to see substantive change by the politicians that you're voting for, then you need to figure out who is funding their campaigns, and you need to limit their influence on those individuals.
See, I think that's just talk about regulatory overreach. I think that's something that just will continue.
So you'd rather have these special PACs be able to pour countless millions of dollars into campaigns, like this one in Georgia, this special election in Georgia. I mean, these guys are spending an enormous amount of money on one congressional seat because they know what the optics will be about whoever wins that in a deeply conservative state. So at the end of the day, you're okay with that. Yeah. I'm not okay with that.
Definitely okay with that.
Definitely not okay with that.
Definitely.
All right, let's move on to something else. We reached
that would take.
You're lucky this is video, because it would get much more heated if it were not.
Yes, we're a little more civilized.
Okay.
On film.
How about this? Can we go to something, Ron? Can I tangent to something?
Do it.
There's two things that I want to kind of tie together here. One is current mental state of the president, but also this insistence to have a pledge of loyalty. Now, from my recollection, Rob, growing up, having to pledge allegiance to the flag my entire life, you pledged your allegiance to the country. You didn't pledge your allegiance to an individual. And then overreaching and stepping into departments like the Department of Justice, stepping into areas and asking for pledges of loyalty with people who are only meant to serve the Constitution, the law, those who elected them. I really have a problem with this, and it kind of drives me back to the mental state of mind. Where is he at mentally where he believes not only is this okay, claims ignorance to the fact he's breaking potentially laws or obstructing justice, that no, I'm just having an old general conversation, and trying to play off that this is what he's doing. He's essentially talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Well, and as you mentioned with that cabinet meeting, like, he really does think that like brown nosing from his cabinet appointees somehow like is helpful to him. You know? Like, he's not actually focused on getting business done. He's focused on image above all else. And I think that there are a lot of trends in U.S. politics that have been going in that direction for quite some time, like, image, sound bites.
Well, that's the reality TV element we touched on.
Exactly.
100%.
But this guy it's just like there's just nothing else there.
I really believe that there is
nothing else.
A larger mental stability issue here. I've seen signs where if you can't recall what you said just minutes or hours ago or days ago, if you can't have a coherent message that's, your national security advisors create a speech for you to give where you're going to back NATO, you're going to continue to lead when it comes to the international community, and then not only do you not live up to that speech that they wrote for you, you actually kind of go the opposite direction and stoke fears across the international community that the United States is taking a step back from its role as the leader in this world. I cannot imagine this is good for anyone, let alone the United States of America, let alone here domestically. So right now, what you have is a president that's backing from the Paris Climate Accord. He's backing away from NATO. He's essentially saying, you guys are on your own. And what I love and what I see happening, what I believe is really another solution to this problem is you have the mayor of Atlanta going out and saying, we're going to do this on our own. We have a large metropolitan area. Because the state of California is saying, we're going to follow the Paris Climate Accords. We're absolutely going to continue to make this fight.
You have Jerry Brown, the governor of California, going to China and essentially introducing his own foreign policy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic.
I'm a little. I go back and
largest
forth.
GDP in America is California. We've always led in California. San Francisco, in particular, has always led when it comes to making progress, moving forward into the future, as opposed to trying to drag back with these deregulations into the past. I
think that's clear,
especially in this day and age.
And I go back and forth on that. I believe in states' rights, but I also believe that foreign policy should be.
Well, you have a president that has no interest in foreign policy.
Well, that's my point. It's something that we can go back and forth about. We can worry about. We can this.
In this current
climate, but it never would It never would have been an issue under a president that was taking care of the basics.
So you're saying you'd rather have Hillary Clinton as president?
Huh? Oh, I never said I would.
I'm saying I'd like it to be on record that you would rather have.
No, I made that very clear in all my videos. I do not like Hillary Clinton. I think she was corrupt. I think she was a disaster.
Well,
I think
not saying
but absolutely, I would rather have Hillary Clinton as the president.
You didn't need to couch it and all that stuff you hated about her.
There's some,
rather have her. All right, so
there was some. I can't remember what the saying.
I'd rather have Bernie Sanders, to be 100% honest about this entire thing. I'd actually rather have Joe Biden. And just for a quick tangent,
you're one of the Bernie would have won people.
I think Bernie would have crushed. I think it would suppress that white male vote that went out so hard against Hillary. Wouldn't have went out so hard if Bernie was in there. At the same time, I also believe that rural America would have potentially not went so hard against Hillary. I think they would have came to Bernie, and he would have energized the progressive side of the ticket and got more turnout from young voters and so on.
Actually, that gets to another important thing, and I think that I wish more Republicans would acknowledge, because I think you might be you're kind of anti-Republican. I think that's fair to say. But
Rob labels me as anti-Republican. I have plenty of Republican friends, and frankly, I am 100% about moving forward with progress. I don't care what party or what politician essentially advocates for progress, but that's what I'm for.
So I think I think both Republicans and Democrats are reverting to sort of old habits right now and just sort of looking at things in a very partisan lens. And I think that understates actually how how potentially destabilizing and problematic this president is. Because for Republicans and folks I've talked to, they're just sort of like, I had my reservations about Trump, but now that I'm seeing the Democrats go so freaking crazy, like I'm a supporter now. And it's like,
I don't see that.
The people,
how are Democrats going so crazy? I've heard this before, that Democrats are not taking advantage of this opportunity, that they're not doing what they need to do to delineate themselves from what I consider to be this ridiculous administration.
I've actually written this video a couple times, and then Trump will do something that's so outrageous that I can't say anything that would plausibly be backing him. But I do think there's. So I'm not saying it's true, but let me. So I'm not saying like it's 100% true what he says about media. I think it's 70% bullshit what he says about media. But I do think there's some truth there. Like, because you
said the Democrats and now you're talking media. So I'm going back to the point that everyone keeps saying Democrats are somehow stepping on them. I'm not going to say what I want to say. Somehow they're stepping on and they're not taking advantage of this opportunity. I actually just don't see that whatsoever.
I think there's a focus on like really silly partisan ideas and stories.
Give me some examples.
I made an example. Okay, do you remember the story where like a woman got arrested for laughing at Jeff Sessions? Do you remember that? That was
kind of
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It didn't go anywhere because it was complete bullshit.
That shouldn't even be on the news.
Exactly.
But anyway,
it was complete.
But that's not nothing to do with how Democrats like Kamala Harris. I think Democrats like her are stepping into her moment, into this position to object a ridiculous what I consider a ridiculous strategy by the current administration to essentially do whatever they want.
I was at a sort of political meeting in San Francisco. It was talking about somebody, and this guy got up there. He was affiliated with, I'm not going to call him out, but he was affiliated with...
Was he elected official?
No, he was not.
Okay.
But he was affiliated with Democratic politics very strongly. And it was very interesting because, like... And he thought he was sort of in a safe space. He thought he was in a freaking co-op.
Okay, let's get to the point, Rob, because you're not giving me any examples right now. I haven't heard one.
I gave you the example of the Jeff Sessions.
That's not an example. I'm talking about elected Democrats that are not taking advantage of this opportunity to expose the stark difference between them and the elected officials that are on the right.
But elected Democrats are part of like this same general media left-wing approach. But they absolutely are.
I disagree 100%. MSNBC is hiring Greta Van Susteren right now. How is it you're somehow saying that first of all, this came down to 100%. People are not. What I disagree with is that people are saying Democrats aren't capturing the moment that they have, and I believe not only are they capturing it, I believe there will be ramifications at the polling booths this fall or next fall.
Yeah, I think that's something that Republicans have to pay attention to, because what we've got right now is like all these Republicans are acting as if their party is the only party that can dominate government. It's not. It's going to change very, very quickly.
Well, clearly, they didn't realize
no matter
they
what,
lost the popular vote in the national election just recently. They're not in a position of strength.
Let's not get into that again. No matter what they tell themselves on Fox News and in their like smaller and smaller bubble
tabloid news, sure,
a bubble of like Trump support, like those disapproval numbers at like 60% for Trump, like it's slow. I mean, it's already in the basement. He's already his approval rating
is like 38%.
It's like matching Clinton.
36.
It's matching Clinton at this point, and like Bill Clinton was sort of universally acknowledged to have completely screwed up his first 2 years in office. So like he's that low now, and I don't see any prospect of it going higher. So like the Republicans are imagining that like they're the only party that can put in a president with no respect for decorum or established limits and like run the government. Like,
right,
I think like it could be. We could be in a very different situation. I know you like Bernie Sanders, but I know that Bernie Sanders is like kind of a hate figure for some of the people who view this channel, and for Republicans generally. Like we're getting so like look at what Donald Trump does.
They're ruling for the minority right now.
Imagine
they're ruling for the minority right now. So.
And imagine, but I'm trying to talk to Republicans. Like imagine Bernie Sanders, but worse, and that is what is plausibly empowered by this like complete disarray in Washington D.C.
I apologize, people. Sorry about that.
He's a busy man. And it's tremendously frustrating, and people just don't understand like how much of a mess this Trump presidency is. It's not a presidency. Like, there is nobody in charge. Like, the adults.
Okay.
Like, this whole political criticism game is sort of premised on the idea that like somebody's in charge and somebody has like an idea of what's going on.
Okay,
nobody is in charge.
Let's talk about that then, Rob. You bring up a point of that. You want to talk to Republicans. All right, let's talk to Republicans. So what I don't understand and what I have not understood is I believe not only has he lied consistently since he's been essentially in the public eye and running for president and then essentially winning and now becoming president, he has consistently lied. He has been consistently shown to be of questionable character when it comes to all the sexual allegations and settled lawsuits and so on and so forth, numerous bankruptcies. At the end of the day, how many lies does he have to tell? How many scandals does he have to erupt around his Twitter feed? What about this man's actions has given you any confidence in his ability to lead this country and to keep the United States of America moving on a positive direction forward? I don't get it. What does he have to do before Republicans will say, you know what, we made a mistake, time to move on?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and what really bothers me about this is like, so I think what I hear a lot is that, oh, the country's changing, and it's going in the wrong direction, and we don't like
who said this?
This is Republicans. Okay. And like it's just like think first. Like, I wish they would like think that through. It's like, okay, so we don't like how this is going. We don't like how the country is going, so we've decided to kill it. Like that's
by supporting him. Yes, by supporting him, you're absolutely right.
That's what it is. That's what supporting
You're absolutely
Trump is.
right.
And it's like
really no one's saying.
And if you really want to, and I do still consider myself a conservative, if you really want to stop certain aspects of, say, overregulation or too much power for Washington, D.C., or if you really want to stop these things, putting this guy in here who is destroying like all basic norms of like decency in government, and also kind of destroying the agencies of government that would be used to make a change in either direction, like, that's not a solution. It's like
I'd rather burn it down than give it over.
Yeah,
I'd rather burn down the library than let the knowledge continue to exist and to be built on.
It's profoundly depressing, and I guess this is why I haven't been talking about domestic stuff. But it's really
that's the thing that I think is I think that's really the crux where the rubber is meeting the road right now. Is that for my entire life, and I'm pretty sure prior to this, people always say, let's not talk about politics, let's not talk about religion, but we're going to go ahead and let politics and religion affect our everyday lives and the laws that are created, and that the things that we all care about, our health care, our education, the roads and bridges and the emergency services that we have available to us. At the end of the day, there has to be a discussion on politics and religion, and there has to be a discussion on how they affect each other. There has to be a discussion on the things that people don't want to talk about at their little social gatherings. Because at the end of the day, you all just sit back in your own quiet bubble, make some decisions that, hey, on this issue, I like Trump. So forget about every other issue that exists. I'm voting for Donald Trump because of this. But at the end of the day, the thing that I heard, the justification I heard a lot from my conservative friends was, he's great at business. Is he? Is he really great at business? It doesn't take an investigative journalist to research and figure out he's actually quite terrible at business. If he would have just put his money in a mutual fund, he'd be sitting on billions of dollars more than he has right now. I mean, there's a litany of failed...
That one's overstated.
I disagree. I disagree.
I looked into it. I was going to make a video. I was going to make a video on that, and I looked into it, and that one was overstated.
Well, so did I disagree that it's overstated.
But I think
how many bankruptcies have relieved debt from him that he no longer has to carry? Like, you can't just say that's overstated and that's not a valid point because you did research. At the end of the day, I've done research as well. So if my research says he's had 6 bankruptcies through companies that he's owned himself or been a majority stakeholder in, is that not factual? Does that not reflect on his ability to do business? You know, Trump steaks, Trump water.
I'm not.
I mean, there's a million things that fail.
I called out that one news story that was proven to not be accurate. I'm not saying that Trump is good at business.
Okay, that's my point.
Trump is transparently not good at business.
Okay, that's my point.
Trump is a reality television star. He's managed to have some limited success and then a succession of bankruptcies in real estate development, which is one of the sleazier, more image-driven businesses we have. It's
I don't want to disparage all of real estate development because Donald Trump's
real
not
estate
good at doing it.
Real estate development is pretty shady, but
I disagree.
I'm not saying it's not necessary.
I disagree.
I'm not saying it's not necessary.
I'm in the world of construction and development, and I believe in sustainable green development, living buildings, healthy environments. I believe in using our resources and redeveloping things instead of expanding into green space. There's a lot of people that are in development construction that aren't shading it, and I would disagree.
Well, maybe in California, but not where I grew up.
Well, the largest populous state in the country, so I guess it does matter what happens in California, does it not?
All right. Moving on. I forgot what I was
Now you're getting a glimpse of what it actually really gets like in here when it's not on video.
Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, but anyway, good. Trump. So I can step right into that void if you like.
You're good at stepping into void. So I think focusing on Trump's business acumen or lack thereof is less, which I agree.
That up because that is one of the number one reasons why I've heard people say I voted for this man. But it didn't take a genius in my mind to figure out that he doesn't have such a strong record as a businessman.
No, and I agree completely. But people will argue about that or what have you. But what can't be argued about, which has become very clear in what is it? Gosh, it's been 4 months, 5 months now?
Seems like a lifetime.
It seems like an eternity. Jesus. What has become very clear is that he has no sense of how to run a government. And he's hired people who, some people are freak shows, but some people, like Mattis, like McMaster,
but he doesn't listen to them. So what's the point of hiring those educated expertise and getting that expertise when you actually ignore, I'll read what you wrote all the way up to the day it happens, and then, I think I'm just going to say whatever I want, regardless of the ramifications for the country.
And it's also a bit problematic the way that I think it's problematic in two directions. So the government is rudderless, the government is a mess, it's being consciously destroyed in some cases, but it's also problematic for the parts of the government that the Republican base has decided are worth preserving. You've got Mattis now, who is a very impressive guy. In this household, there should be a shrine to Mattis. He's well regarded, but he's a general, and there's a reason why we do not let generals run our foreign policy. He is a great ass kicker, the ass kicker of all ass kickers, but you do not want the expert in destruction running your foreign policy. And I think that's the place that we're getting to.
Well, then he also has McAllister and other individuals with Mattis that are actually working together to try to put together a foreign policy that is positive for the country. Very obviously pro-military, coming from the generals.
But see, exactly, and it's more military than we.
But he's not even listening to them, so it is irrelevant. That
but it's not. But that's the problem. Is when it's something that the president has to do, like go make a nice speech at NATO. Yes, he fucks that up. But we're talking about the U.S. Defense Department and U.S. foreign policy is a tremendously complex, moving system of hundreds of thousands of people. So when the president isn't in the room, and he almost always is not in the room, and Trump was announced today that Trump was like, oh yeah, Mattis might decide to raise troop levels in Afghanistan. Like when Obama decided to raise troop levels in Afghanistan, actually I think some would argue that Obama's decision-making process on that was too convoluted, but it was the president that made that decision because a president has to be...
After absorbing a significant amount of information from all the people that he hired to give him advice on these situations.
Because the president has to have, like, the full idea. Like, okay, like, if something goes terribly wrong on the Afghanistan battlefield, what's it going to mean
for his feet?
What's it going to mean for politics?
But it also falls to his responsibility being the commander-in-chief. And ultimately, those lives of those people he's putting in harm's way they're his responsibility.
Exactly, and he's going to draw in like information from the State Department,
but
diplomats.
But this all goes back to the competence of this man. It goes back to the competence of Donald Trump and his mental state. Yeah. I don't believe he has the competence to do these things because I believe his mental state should be in question. I mean, you have any number of people on the right within his own administration actually stepping out and leaking, I know he hates leaks, but leaking that they believe there is a problem with his mental state. And how do you address that? This man can't even be disagreed with.
I don't like the whole like mental state thing because I don't think we're learning. I don't think we're learning anything new. This is what. Why
is there no conversations about it then? If we're not learning anything, no one's talking about that he potentially might have some low-level dementia.
Oh no, that's definitely.
I haven't heard that conversation anywhere.
No, I think it's a very real concern.
It is a real concern, but I don't hear that conversation happening. I hear it being leaked out here and there. I don't hear anybody picking it up. Fareed didn't do an expose on it.
No,
he did one on Saudi Arabia for you, but he didn't do one on the middle state of this president. Yeah. So I mean, I would guess what I would say is the majority of the problems that this administration is having are their own doing. And frankly, if they just shut down the Twitter account, I mean, can I appeal to Twitter right now? Can you literally just shut down Donald J. Trump's Twitter handle?
Donald J. Trump is keeping Twitter alive.
I know he is, but at what harm to the country?
That's worth what?
At what harm to the country? And honestly, if you're in his administration, you'd be one wanting them to shut it down more than I would.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day,
I don't think that's gonna. Yeah.
His travel ban couldn't even live up because he couldn't stop tweeting about it. Yeah. I mean, he literally he insults.
Now I know that you think that. I mean, that's I think the key part. Like they talk about he talks about this witch hunt. He talks about this Russia thing is unfair. I know. I know people who believe that, which I do not agree with. But I think the key part with this whole Russia investigation is that, like, I don't actually believe that there was collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign.
Whether you believe it or not, it's irrelevant, is it, Rob? That's for a lawyer in the Department of Justice to investigate.
Let me finish my thought.
Fired the FBI leader.
Exactly. Let me finish my thought. Like, the reason that Russia is still in the news. Sure, there would have been people who would have been angry about it, shouting about it. There would have been investigations ongoing. But the reason that there's now been a special counsel appointed is because of Trump. It's because Trump gave a freaking interview where he said, I fired the FBI director to obstruct the process of an investigation. This man is like you can
he's digging his own grave.
You can say that Democrats are too fanatic about Russia. You can say some Democrats say that. Some Democrats say that Democrats should be more focused on healthcare than Russia. But you cannot deny that this Russia debacle, or stupid Watergate, as it's called, is completely a creation of Donald Trump.
I would say, this is the thing. No question has he made it worse. No question has he brought obstruction of justice onto the table. No question has it expanded and become so much more worse. But I'm not giving him a pass, and I'm certainly not going to blame this on the left. He's the one that hired Michael Flynn. He's the one that had Jeff Sessions and Jared Kushner having discussions and conversations with people from Russia's administration, their top-level diplomats, before he even assumed office. Okay, this isn't something that, like, people this collusion idea just came out of nowhere. There's tons of smoke and fire right here.
My problem with
did he not hire Michael Flynn?
Too much.
Did he not hire him, though, Rob?
He hired Michael.
And that individual is at the crux of all of this. So this is on Trump and on his decision making. Sessions led the transition. He was the one that reviewed Michael Flynn. He let him in anyway. He's the one that said, I had no meetings with Russia. Now I had 2. Maybe I had 3. Like Jared Kushner. This dude's never even spoke in public, and he is responsible for half the government apparently. If you listen to Trump.
Yeah.
How is that possible that a kid that's 36 years old, who inherited a real estate fortune from his father who's in prison now, and that's why he had to take it over, is somehow responsible for half of the domestic issues? And he's never spoke in public. He's never once made his... I don't even know what his voice sounds like. I don't even know what his voice sounds like.
Isn't he speaking in front of the committee?
I highly doubt it's public.
Yeah, that's a
and if it's public, he'll probably do what Sessions did. I can't answer that because the president may want to invoke executive privilege. I don't know if he wants to because I don't talk to him. Because why would I talk to him? But maybe he would. I mean, this is a joke. It is a flat, abject failure. It's an embarrassment on our country, and there's no sustainable way forward for our people with this type of leadership. And that's full circle. Let's bring it back to the leadership, Rob. How is this a leader? He shirks responsibility at every turn. Is he going to take responsibility for any of the actions? He can't even misspell a word, kafefe, and then say, "Oh, my bad. I misspelled. It was a misspelling, an autocorrect issue." Yeah. No, Sean Spicer says the president and a small group of people, they know what it means.
You see, I think
it's a joke, dude.
I think actually this is what you've said just right here in the past minute is, I think, a good example of the lack of seriousness about how we're thinking about this issue, because you've mentioned 4 or 5 issues that are tremendously important.
Agreed.
Like Jared Kushner, who is this guy who's given responsibility for half of everything? I think I actually want to disagree with sort of Russia.
He's an entitled rich white man. Yes. That's who he is.
I think there's definitely real things that need to be looked at with the Russian investigation. I'm sure we disagree on that, but I don't want to wake the neighbors. But then also we're talking about kafefi, which is very transparently sort of a distraction and just silly.
It's stupid, no question, Rob, but they can't even admit a mistake on the smallest of levels. But that is an indicator of incompetence on a grand scheme.
If people are focusing on kafefi, they're not focusing on the inappropriate.
Rob, I don't believe they're focusing on that
approach. They're not.
There's so much shit.
It's people are not. Of course, that's part of the strategy.
I mentioned 4 or 5 things, Rob. We don't have enough time.
The fact that there's an endless stream of shit, as you say, is a distraction. And I think we need to focus a little more closely on the real issues, because
I believe that is happening. I believe the Kamala Harrises of the world, I believe the Claire McCaskills of the world, I believe the Nancy Pelosi's of the world are focusing on these real issues. I believe comedians love the kafefe, because I did see my man Stephen Colbert had a pretty funny monologue on it. But my point is that all of these things are issues. I don't think any one thing is disproportionately getting coverage right now, because they're all important. And I think if you're trying to continue to minimize potential collusion between our government and a foreign power, our newly elected government, then to me that just tries to minimize something that could blow up the legitimacy of the entire election. How can you minimize that?
I don't think. I think that
would it make the election?
I think people are a little too crazy.
Would they call it into question if it was proven to be collusion? Would the election be called into question if it was proven by the Department of Justice to be collusion?
No, it would not be.
They wouldn't be able to call that the legitimacy of that election in the process? I don't know how it would unfold. I'm just saying it would call the legitimacy of that election into question if they could prove collusion. It's one thing, Rob, when you have a sitting president.
See, but I don't understand why you're still talking about collusion when we already have a very straightforward obstruction of justice thing.
Because, Rob, it's still significant. Why is it that you're refusing to admit that could potentially be one of the most treasonous acts, if proven, that has ever occurred at the highest levels of our government? To have a collusion with a foreign power that has not our best interest in mind.
Fucking Nixon was negotiating with the North Vietnamese before he was elected. And
so the North Vietnamese are on the level of Russia. The North Vietnamese are on the level of Russia.
We were fighting a war against them that killed 50,000 people.
That war is ridiculous.
And I think that people have an unnatural anger at Russia. Actually, I think that people just fall back into this Cold War. What Obama said was right. Russia is a regional power
out with China. Should be any number of countries. It would still be just as serious of a problem. This man, if there is a person trying to be the leader of the free world and the commander in chief of the United States of America, intentionally going out and colluding with another foreign power to get himself elected. That is a problem. The evidence
that people are looking at here is Sessions met with the Russian
ambassador. We don't know the evidence, Rob. Once again, you're assuming that you know what the evidence is. You are not the lawyer. You are not you are not handling this investigation. So you do not know what the evidence is.
Yeah, but what you're saying.
I don't either. But I know what should be investigated.
What you're doing is you're
very seriously
shouting about the fact that he's guilty. He's guilty. He's guilty.
I didn't say that. I've never said he's guilty. I said this absolutely needs to be at the forefront of every conversation.
It absolutely is. It's at the forefront of too many.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Is you're trying to minimize the seriousness of that situation.
I'm not minimizing it. There's 3 ongoing investigations, and they should absolutely.
And they're all being
continue.
obstructed. Huh? And they're all being obstructed right now.
Exactly. You've got an obstruction of justice.
So that's the whole point, Rob. Not only are they being obstructed, that makes that even more serious. If it's not an issue, there wouldn't be this level of obstruction. Why would you obstruct this seriously to have now obstruction charges potentially on you?
Because he's an idiot.
Well, see, you know what? I would agree. Yes, there's no question. I believe he is mentally incompetent.
Yes,
but that does not change the fact
that has been demonstrated.
That these are extremely serious things. So serious that it would bring into question not only the legitimacy of this administration and his presidency,
see, I have yet to see
impeachment, potential criminal charges, so many levels of fallout.
I have yet to see any.
Of course, you're not. You're not Robert Mueller. You are not Robert Mueller. You are not James Comey. And you know what? James Comey was doing his job and got fired for it. And then the man went on TV, and Lester Holt, good job, Lester. Yeah. Lester Holt was able to get this man to admit that he did that within minutes of his whole entire administration peddling another story.
I agree.
This is on a level that has never been seen, Rob. And so you're trying to minimize something I'm just not going to ever be on board with. This is serious. It needs to be taken serious. And if you consider More Freedom Foundation an independent news outlet, then I believe you should take this more seriously.
No.
Well, once again, you're getting a real life shot on what it's like for us to banter because generally I'm trying to be more toned down on this, but I'm sorry.
The time
for toning down is over.
The only video I've made on Russia to date was an argument that people are trying to shut down a legitimate urge towards openness and an open hand with Russia. I think the assumption that a lot of people make is that Russia is somehow a threat to us, and they manifestly are not.
I disagree.
They are a clown show, and we should be more concerned.
This election, how is that not a threat? If they were capable of very much in the ilk of the Cold War, if they were able to subvert and influence this election and flip a few 100,000 votes in each different state over to him, battleground states, and get this man elected. What do you mean they're not a threat? Well, how could that be a threat? That is they just manipulated our fucking election. It wasn't the state of Florida that manipulated votes. It was a foreign power.
We always manipulate other people's elections. That's just in the basis
is this supposed to mean this is okay? This means Russia's not a threat?
When did I say
so then don't use that as a reason why we shouldn't be taking this seriously and that they're not a threat just because it's happened that we've done it. We've done a lot of fucked up shit. You know what I mean? So that doesn't mean that it's okay for others to do it. It certainly doesn't mean that Russia's not a threat. And this thing is that really, really bothers me about this on a level that I cannot understand is just to dismiss it outright as some sort of witch hunt or conspiracy theory or something that doesn't deserve to be taken seriously. Like, I'm sorry. I take the election. I'm a 2000. I voted in George Bush and Al Gore's election. I took that very seriously, to heart, and have since been very active politically in educating myself and knowing and voting, which every person should do. If you want to take back your government, vote. That is it, plain and simple. But at the end of the day, you're trying to minimize and act as if Russia's not a threat, that this didn't happen. Why care about that? We have obstruction now. No, we only have obstruction because they're trying to cover up something. Whether or not collusion can be proven or happen, I don't know. But I would like Robert Mueller, I would like James Comey, I would like the adults in the room to be able to get to that conclusion, to be able to bring that information to light, give you all the data, Rob, so you can digest it, because I know you are a thoughtful person. And if you're given the facts, is it possible your opinion could change? Is it possible you could then come to a conclusion, I was wrong. There was collusion. I have now got the facts laid out before me. And I believe that this is very serious. Is that not possible?
That's possible, but I think it's very unlikely.
Well, I
can't believe I'm about to
Trump
quote,
winning was very unlikely.
I can't believe I'm about to quote Lindsey Graham. But,
God!
What did he say? He said, "I just don't believe that Trump could collude with Russia because Trump can't collude.
He's
with
not
his
smart
own
enough.
He's not smart enough because Trump can't collude with his own government.
This man uses his ignorance to get out of everything. Apparently." I'm sorry. I'm one as what I consider a patriotic American will never stand by and let someone claim ignorance that affects the everyday lives of everyone that I love, even the people that don't agree with me.
Well, I think we can agree that Trump is a fucking disaster.
Leadership.
Yeah,
we are void of leadership 100% right now. We have nothing but sycophants and yes-men surrounding the people that are supposed to make decisions about your everyday life.
Well, and then they can't even do their job of being sycophants or yes-men because Trump changes what his public profile is every 15 minutes.
Mentally unstable. That I would argue that's what maybe someone with dementia would do. I don't remember what I agreed to 10 minutes ago. I'll say whatever the fuck I want on Twitter.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty. I think we disagree on Russia, but we agree that Donald Trump is a disaster that continues to unfold.
Well,
and
this went way longer than we thought, and I am late for an appointment. But you know what? This is important. The More Freedom Foundation is important to me. Rob is a good friend of mine. The future of our country is very important to me, and I hope that you guys will support Rob. I hope that you will watch this and share this, and I hope that this stokes conversations, the uncomfortable kind that no one wants to have.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And I've got a fundraising thing going on right now on Patreon. I'm trying to keep this channel alive. I just want to thank Ray for continuing to sit down for these conversations. It's been great. It's been great for the channel. And with that,
go blue.
There we are. Have a good day. All right. How long was that?
I don't know, but I gotta go. I think that calling me. Oh, good. I still got 5 minutes.
Shit, I'm sorry, man. How long did that take?
I don't know, dude, but I'm good as long as I'm driving and I can text them that I'm on the way.
Oh shit! Yeah, the camera died.
No. When did it die?
There was 45 minutes on it.
Oh fuck, dude.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.